Welcome to Surviving Schizophrenia with Steven. My name is Steven. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'd like to explain what my 2-year psychosis was like. So I have schizophrenia. I was diagnosed with childhood-onset schizophrenia about 13 years ago when I was 12 years old. And I went from being normal, I guess, no issues whatsoever, no hallucinations, no psychosis, no anxiety or depression, to pretty quickly full-on psychosis, massive amounts of anxiety, and depression. And I want to explain what that was like for me, how it came about, and what it felt like to be psychotic for 2 years. I remember when my psychosis began to start. It started with me forgetting things. It started where, I remember I turned around during class at one point to a student in my class who I'd known for a few years. He'd been going to the school, been in my class for about 3 years, 2 years or so. And I turned around to him and I go, "Who are you? And where am I?" I had completely forgotten that I was at my school, why, and who he was. He laughed and thought I was joking. I was not joking. I also remember writing down in class everyone's name and people like I didn't want to forget. In my family, for example, I would write repeatedly names of my cousins, names of my parents' names, my family's names repeatedly, because I thought I would forget if I didn't write them down. If I wrote them down right, I wouldn't forget about it. So I did. And I remember my teacher's face when she saw what I was doing. Probably confusion and kind of horror of what was happening, because she didn't fully understand what was happening. And I remember she sent me to the principal's office and sent me home for help. What else could she do? And when she sent me to the principal's office and I waited for my parents to come pick me up, I don't quite remember how exactly it happened, but I remember not knowing why and being unsure of what was going on. Like, I thought things were pretty much fine. Things weren't. I was writing down names I didn't want to forget. I was forgetting people's names in my class when I was there, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm falling into psychosis and I have schizophrenia now and I know something's wrong. I had no clue. And I didn't realize I was losing my mind at that point. And I wouldn't realize until well after even being hospitalized. It took me falling out of psychosis to realize I'd ever been in psychosis. And when I did come out of the psychosis, I was scarred. When I was told I had schizophrenia, I cried. When I finally went back to the school, well, not the school, a different school, that could accommodate my needs for high school, I remember my dad would drive me up to school, would get there, and one of a few things would happen for a while. One, I'd just start crying and we'd have to go home. Or two, similarly but different, I'd be too anxious and stressed out to go anywhere outside of the car. And we'd go home. And way later on, eventually, I would be able to actually go into class sometimes and then have to leave again. Because that, having schizophrenia and realizing what had happened to me with that psychosis was too much for me to handle for a very long time. And of course, I was still ill at this time. I might not have been psychotic anymore at this point of the story, right, where it was 2 years later, but I still had schizophrenia. On top of not knowing I had schizophrenia and realizing what had happened to me, I still had daily anxiety and depression and symptoms of my schizophrenia. I still had to live and deal with this debilitating mental illness, and that nearly destroyed me. I came very close to ending my life. And I even told I live very close to some cliffs next to the ocean. And I told my parents, I don't remember this, but they told me later, that I said, when I decide to, I will run and you won't catch me. I think that was very soon after when I was hospitalized. And that passed. But that's a lot to deal with as a 12-year-old. And so it was very difficult for me to deal with all this. And so my psychosis went on, right, for those 2 years. And what was that like, right? Well, I wasn't in reality completely. But some parts of my brain still understood what reality was. For example, while I thought there was a war between the gods of heaven and hell, and I was an integral part of this war, I never acted on that. And I will also say, people with schizophrenia, we are no more likely to be violent than anyone else, except maybe to ourselves. But while I thought all these psychotic idealizations were real, I still knew who my parents were, for example, and that they were my parents. I still could, and I did a lot of this at that time, play video games and watch TV. Now, I was isolated at this time, so that's pretty much all I did. And I would play strategy games, watch comedy TV shows on TV, and that helped so much. It gave me an escape from my psychosis. I could watch a comedy and laugh and enjoy it and have a good time in a world where I didn't have schizophrenia and psychosis. Or play a game where I could, I don't know, for example, be like the savior, right? Help people, be a good person, help save the world, right? Be the hero. Just play strategy games, sharpen my mind that way, and lead a civilization to greatness. And that helped with my psychosis, because while my real world was crumbling around me, this digital world, or on screen watching comedies, let me get out of my head and be in a world where it's fun, where I can do good things and do something, where I don't have schizophrenia or psychosis and can get out of my mind, which I think actually helped me heal. Because had I just been in my psychotic state completely and not had any way to detach myself from that and escape, well, I would just have been constantly thinking about all the horrible things going on in my mind. So schizophrenia is a mental illness, and it stopped me from engaging in life, and I want to try to explain why. Now, with schizophrenia, for me, it came with anxiety and depression as well. Social anxiety, especially. And I think the best way to explain why these were an issue and how is to tell you this event that happened to me. This was after I was out of psychosis, I believe, even, but I remember my dad, my therapist, and my ex-home teacher, we all went to Whole Foods. Whole Foods is a grocery store market. It was not far from my house. And we went there as a way to get me out and doing something, right? At that point, it wasn't about teaching me stuff as much as getting me to do things out. And now I was kind of stressed going there in the car. But when I stepped out of the car, I was overwhelmingly stressed with all the different stimulus going on, right? People walking by. I think they're looking at me. Or, they walked past me, but they must be thinking about me. That's kind of what's going on in my mind, right? Where everyone was looking at me and judging me and thinking about me and being annoyed with me being there or anything like that. When we walked into the store, all of a sudden it was even worse. Bright lights everywhere. People, so much noise, right? Oh my gosh, I can't handle this. I can't take this. Okay, I got this, right? I can do this, okay? That's how I felt. Does that make sense? And I think we got about 10 minutes before I could not take it. I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but in my mind, I might as well have gone into the fetal position, and I felt curling up into a little ball and just staying there forever, shutting myself off. And I think we left soon after that. I don't remember the rest very well. And we got me some water, and we sat outside, I think, at a table, trying to see if I could relaxed, calm down enough to go back in, and I couldn't, so I left and came home. I hope that explains kind of what was going on in my mind, where everyone was constantly thinking and judging of what I was doing, and I was always doing it wrong in my mind. And everything like that was just destructive for me. And I wasn't able to go out and do things like that for a long time. And even later, I wasn't able to pay people. Like, if I went to the grocery store and my parents gave me money, this is like way later even, like when I was better, well, not well, but better. Something about handing like $5 for a snack to the cashier was too much for me. Because I'm going to do it wrong, right? I'm always going to mess something up. They're going to be upset with me because I did it wrong. It's kind of what was going on in my mind at the time. And as for depression as well, switching now, because I was so isolated, I didn't have friends that I was hanging out with. That would have stressed me out too much anyway. And so being so isolated, my depression got worse. And again, playing video games, watching comedies, that was great. That helped. But depression is just also debilitating. And that helped me to, not helped me, but it got me to sleep way too much. It took my life away. Even more than the schizophrenia and the psychosis had. And I still had those too. Over time, things got better though. Over time, my depression got better. The psychosis lifted. The anxiety, well, still very much so there, but that was also lifting. A few years after that, I was able to do things, say with my family again, my cousins. And now they would come over and do things with me here and try to help me out. And my family was there for me. And I love you guys. Thank you. But I wasn't able to be doing stuff with them at that point. It was more with me. But then, as I got better and the years passed, I was able to do stuff with them and go out to the store, for example, and stuff like that. Over time, I went back to school. And while that had stressful things too, it got me back out. And then when that was not working, and I'll make a video about this soon, hopefully, I got my GED instead, my graduation equivalency diploma. Finished high school. After that, I was like, well, what do I do? And I decided to start YouTube. And that's where I recovered even more. And now, I still have anxiety and I have depression, but I don't have psychosis. Still have schizophrenia, but the symptoms aren't anywhere near as bad. I have recovered and healed so much in the last 3 or so years, especially. But really in the last, say, 6. And while everything I've said in this video, it's horrible, right? It's hard, it's terrible. But the thing is, it did get better. And it's taken a long time, but it's gotten better. And I've recovered greatly, enough to tell you my story here on YouTube. And I attributed this to a few things, but the biggest thing is that I took my medication and I listened to my psychiatrists and the doctors. I've always taken my medication since. I've never stopped. Had I stopped, I may have relapsed and fallen back into psychosis again. So taking my medication has been incredibly important and crucial to my recovery. And then when I was able to, getting out and trying to be more social, whether that's just with my family or later on with some friends, right? Getting out and actually doing things helped me so much as well. And then the third thing, outside of my family as well, I should say, who were there supporting me and helping, has been YouTube. And not just YouTube, right? All of you. Having all of you, such amazing people, follow and I appreciate what I do in my life has been incredible. And that is why I've recovered so much in the last 3 years, is because of all of you. So thank you. Thank you. You guys are the reason I am here today, the way I am today. And I'm so grateful. So I think that's all I got for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you made it this far, a very special thank you to you. You guys are the absolute best to watch this far. And yeah, thank you, and I hope you have a happy and healthy rest of your day. Hope to see you in the next video.